What's going on, everybody? Wanted to throw this in at the beginning of the episode. Just wanted to thank everybody so much for listening, as always. Also, we have finally found the studio. We have moved from doing it at the apartment to Gotham Podcast Studios here in New York City. Fantastic place to record. It's going to be the home for Ex Drinking Buddy moving forward, which is super awesome. Shout out to Miles and the crew over there for having us. And I just wanted to say thank you all so much for listening. Check out the website. Get your Ex Drinking Buddy merch. I know you're going to love this week's episode. Espi is a hilarious comedian, and she is also very fiery like I am. So it's a great episode, and enjoy.
Grab me a beer and grab me a coke. We bout to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brandon T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brandon Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brandon Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brandon Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brandon Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy.
What's up, everybody? Hey. Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. I'm your host, Brennan Tassif. If you're new to the show, quick rundown of the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It's my favorite thing to do, to hang out with friends, get drunk, smoke weed, do drugs, get in trouble, and reminisce about old stories. I am sober today, but that is still one of my favorite things to do. Most weeks I will be joined by a guest. This week is no exception. All the way from New York City, Espi Rivadeneira.
Hi.
Hey.
How's it going?
Full disclosure to the listeners, we're recording in the studio for the first time.
Yes.
This is exciting.
It's cool.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it's a neat place.
Well, it's a lot better than my one-bedroom apartment with my 100-pound dog running around.
Yeah, that can be a problem.
Yeah,
Probably.
she almost, Jeff Sheen has his album coming out this week.
Yeah.
And so he came up to promote it. She almost shit on his shoes.
Oh, my God.
She had like bad diarrhea. And that was the point I told Miles. That was the point I was like, I need a studio.
Yeah. What kind of dog is she?
She's a boxer German Shepherd mix.
Oh, so she's a big...
She's
huge.
Huge.
She's like my size.
She's huge.
Yeah.
The biggest dog. Plug everything up front. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Tonight I'm hosting Ample Hills show, or Stand Up a la Mode in Ample Hills. I'm at the Grizzly Pear all the time. And Monday Night Comedy, that's my show. I produce every Monday 10 o'clock at the Comedy Shop Village.
Yeah, Comedy Shop. You're there too, a lot.
Yeah. Both the Pear and Comedy Shop, I'm at a lot.
That's your spot.
Those are my
Lower East Side.
Village.
Yeah, I'm new to New York. What do I know?
You'll learn.
Yeah, right. Tell everybody, do you have Instagram, social media, anything like that?
Yeah, so it's for Twitter and Instagram, it's at Espi Rivadeneira, ESPIRIVADENEIRA. They'll have to replay it like 8 times. And Facebook, same thing, Espi Rivadeneira. That's all the same. Yeah.
Beautiful. Perfect.
Yeah.
So I met you. We did the Hell Yeah Comedy Show together.
Yeah.
And we were talking before the show, and I was like, this is like the female version of me. Well, because you were talking about like how aggressive you can get.
I get really bad.
Yeah. And I was like, I love this. So I was like, you've got to come on the show. We've got to talk, because you had mentioned that you don't drink anymore.
I don't drink.
You've been sober 6 years?
Yep.
Okay, so I did remember that, and I was like, oh, this is perfect, because the people who give up drinking always have
great stories.
The best stories.
Yeah.
There's a reason they gave up drinking. So I wanted the listeners to get to know you a little bit, though. How did you get into comedy, start doing stand-up? Are you from New York originally?
I'm from upstate New York. That's where I was born.
Okay.
And I was there most of my life. And then my dad got this great promotion, and they're like, we'll move you to Austin, Texas. So then they were like, we'll move. I always wanted to live in New York City, but it was too expensive after school. So my parents, they were like, well, you can come live with us for a little bit once you figure things out. So I went to Austin.
This was in the city or in Austin?
In Austin.
Okay.
So I went there. That was where I started comedy.
So you grew up upstate, and then as you got older, you're like, oh, I'm going to go to Texas.
Yeah, but I always wanted to be in New York. So then I went to Texas, and I didn't have any friends or anything. But actually, so when I got sober, I was so miserable that I was like, I need to do something crazy.
Yeah, same exact thing. That was the same thing.
So I started with improv because I was still kind of a pussy, and I was like, I want other people. And I did improv for like 3 years, but it was just getting boring. And honestly, if everyone was just too positive, and I was like, I hate this.
I hate
everything. And so I was like, dude, I can't do this. And then all the improvisers were like, you seem more like a comic. They're like, you should go do stand-up.
That seems like the biggest compliment you could ever get.
Yeah. So I was like, all right. So I started doing stand-up 4 years ago. And then once I started, I was like hooked.
Were you always a fan of stand-up?
Always.
Okay.
My family's really big into comedy. They're all super funny, but I grew up watching Seinfeld and Chappelle, Neil Brennan, like just all of that. Yeah. And I always admired it. And I remembered my father telling me, he's like one of the few people that gets how hard it is. Because a lot of people think it's easy. Like even people I've talked to, they're like, oh, you have to do 10 minutes? Like that's nothing. I'm like, no, that's years of work.
Yeah, I am in the process of writing a bit about this now. My girlfriend's reading the Judd Apatow book. Yeah. Where he interviews all these comics.
I'm reading that right now too. That's funny.
She literally, well, we were watching a show. I think we were rewatching Ozark, getting ready for the new season. And she paused it. And I was like, what's up? She goes, you really need to be writing more.
Oh my God.
And I was like, excuse me?
Damn.
She's like, yeah, I'm reading the Judd Apatow book and he's interviewing all these comics. But to your point, she's like, oh, is that it? You're the master of comedy. I just need to write more and you'll call the vice president of comedy and everything's good.
Yeah, people don't get how difficult it is and it's who you know. And like, but he always got that because I remember watching when I was a kid and I was like 8 and I was like, I could do that. And he was like, it's a lot of work. Like, it's not, this looks like they're just talking, but that's not what it is. They've said that thousands of times, maybe. And so then,
so when you get to Austin, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, it's fine.
I'm interested in this because I didn't know that about you with the improv thing. When you get to Austin and you're sober and you're just like, I need to do.
I was still drinking in Austin.
Oh, were you?
So I was, So I guess I moved there a while ago. It must have been 7 years. So I got there, I was still drinking, and then my 22nd birthday was just wild. It was like, that was the last time I drank. I got into a fight with some guy at a bar.
Okay. Is that on the list that you sent me?
I don't know. There was so much crazy stuff that...
Well, let's talk, because my last drunk story is super sad. Like, I was alone. I had, like, someone came and, like, rushed me to the ER. I was dying. It was this whole thing. But that was the last time I drank. But I'm always interested because... they're always so wild. Like
it was crazy.
Yeah. So what happens? It's your 22nd birthday.
Oh, I don't know if they can see. I'm 5'2", but I would get so aggressive. So I would talk shit. So I don't really remember what happened. I just remember before, like that browning out feeling.
Oh yeah.
And then.
Well, what happened? So it's your 22nd birthday. You're in Austin. You're still drinking. Yeah. You're like, I'm gonna fucking do it. Because you had mentioned you didn't have like a ton of friends or anything. Were you just
No. So teachers get fucked up because I was teaching.
Okay.
So I had one friend that I taught with, and she was an animal. She would drink like crazy too. It was like, she was like, no offense, like Mexicans can throw. She was like, so I went with her and her buddy, and we were just like getting wild. And then I was on, it's Dirty 6th Street, like the place to get. I was just a mess. I fit right in. And I don't know what happened. We got separated at some point. And then I kind of remember, like, the police sitting me down, and I was just a mess. I was, like, bloody. I was all fucked up. Like, this dude, like, hit
What
me.
happened with you don't remember?
I don't even remember, like, the guy or anything. But then my parents somehow, they didn't arrest me, which I'm shocked.
Yeah.
But so somehow my parents got called, and that was awful. I felt so bad. And so they picked me up, and my parents are so strict, and they were like, yo, if you keep, like, if this happens again, like, you're out. Like, that's it. And I knew they meant it, which I think was good. So because then I had to, like, because that had happened before. All kinds of stuff kept happening. And then once they found out how bad it was, I was like, oh, I have to, like, get my life together.
Well, that was the one thing I noticed in my drinking and my active addiction was that as long as no one else was affected,
that's what I
didn't care.
I was like, it's fine.
Yeah, like if I got fired or if I got into trouble, I got the DUI, like I'll handle it. Like when I got my first DUI, I didn't call anybody. Like I just sat in the cell. Like they're like, oh, you get a call, and it's like, who am I gonna call?
Yeah,
like I'm
you don't
5
want to
hours
involve
away from anybody, and I don't want anyone involved anyway.
Yeah.
And so same kind of thing though. But when you start affecting other people, and like when other people find out, it's so embarrassing.
It was so embarrassing, and I would lie. I feel like I'm so honest now. I was talking to another comic that's sober about this, but it was like I was lying all the time just about how much I was drinking or what I was doing. And before that, I had friends that were like, you're acting really weird. But I think it was because like I was doing so well in college too. I was like, it's fine. I was like, if anything, you guys should be getting better
Doing what
grades
I'm
like
doing,
me.
yeah.
Yeah. So it
Where
was
did you go
hard.
to college?
I went to Hobart and William Smith in
Okay.
upstate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you did all that before you ended up in Austin.
Yeah.
So you see, that was the interesting thing too. When I noticed when I was in school was I would get blasted, but I enjoyed my major, so I would still show up to classes.
Me too.
I would take notes, and I was the kind of person where I could take notes and then I would do well on tests.
Right.
Like I didn't have to like study or do a lot. Like as long as I was in class paying attention, taking notes, I was good.
I feel like I focus pretty well.
Yeah.
And a lot of comics say that too. They're like, you have an amazing work ethic. And I'm like, I've always had that, maybe because my parents, they're like immigrants and they really would push that. But that was never a problem. Even going to work and stuff. Sometimes I went to work drunk too, but I would still be a lot of the time. A lot.
Well, I only say that because I worked in the service industry, so you.
Me too.
Like you do better when you had a couple of shots.
Because then I was more, and people were like, "You're so charismatic and fun," you know. So I was having a great time.
It's when I would go too far and then forget like which tables I had and like, shit, did I put in that appetizer? That's when I started getting a little. I've only been sent home though like 3 times. Which a lot of people listening would be like, that's a lot to get home sent home.
But to be all the times you were drinking,
to be
that's
hammered
nothing.
every day at work and only get sent home 3 times in 15 years, like that's nothing.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's great.
So that was the point where you get home, and then did you start going to meetings? Did you call somebody? Like, what'd you do?
My family, a lot of alcoholics in my family. So my dad, for a while they were very anti-therapy too, because my dad's Argentinian, my mom's like tough Italian, so they were like, therapy's stupid. So, and he had gone to AA.
Stupid.
They don't think that anymore. They used to, but he went to AA and he was like, they're too soft. Because I think I remember too when I was little, he kept like relapsing. They're like, it's okay, and he was like, but it's not.
Yeah.
So he had a weird relationship with it, and he was like, it's not worth your time to go. But I wanted help because I was like, I don't know what I had been trying to get sober too, but I would just relapse. And anytime I relapsed, it was like an explosion. So I joined.
Or a party, as I like to say.
It was like an explosion every time. And it was so bad. And but I joined. It was sort of like an online AA group. That was called, I think now it's called Daybreak, but it used to be called Hello Sunday Morning. And it was basically the same thing where you could post. But it was cool because it was anonymous too. And I was pretty shy. So I think that was best for me anyways. But I would write every day how I was feeling. And you could see other people. Like I liked following people that had been sober for a while. And I would go look back at their early posts and I would see like patterns too, like the first few months sucking, and then getting better. So I just kept thinking, I was like, all right, just get through the first few months and you'll be all right. And then I wrote on there every day for a year. And then after the year, I was like, I think I'm all right. So I feel pretty good. And now if I feel like
Do you ever get that feeling?
I did a few months ago, but I was like overworking myself. And then
That's when it always happens.
I was like, I just have to take better care of myself. I was just really depressed. And I did go to an AA. It was like a Zoom AA meeting. And it kind of helped. And then my friends, I have a lot of sober buddies. They got me. Have you ever read The Big Book? I never read it.
Yeah,
I have it. So I've been reading that
times,
now. Yeah. So they got me that, which was really sweet. But you know, it's nice having those people around. Yeah. Because it's so much easier. Like, because for a while I didn't have anyone. So I was just sort of on my own. Like,
see, and that's what it was interesting to me is because I went through the same process where I was like, when you're in your early 20s and you're away at school and other people are saying, like, you might have a problem.
That's bad.
You might seriously have a problem.
Because everyone's partying.
Yeah.
So that's really bad.
And I know the listeners have heard it a million times, but like when football was taken from me, I didn't know what to do because I'm an addict by nature.
Yeah, me too.
So I didn't know what to do with all this extra time and energy. So I just got into drinking and drugs, like really bad. And I remember at like 22-ish, I was like, I should probably stop. And I went to my first AA meeting just with a friend who had been sober for a little while. And I remember they asked, like, anybody here in the first 30 days? I raised my hand. I was like, I've been sober a day. And they asked me. And I remember just uncontrollably, I just started sobbing.
Yeah.
And I didn't intend to. I didn't even intend to
happens,
speak.
though.
And I just started bawling. And I was like, I don't know what's wrong. And of course, never went back to an AA meeting like for years.
Yeah.
And like started drinking again and stuff. But that was the point where I was like, oh, like maybe all these people are onto something. And I tried so hard for you'll read it eventually in the big book, but it talks about like, you know, switching from different liquors to just beer, not keeping it in the house, or making little deals with yourself. Like, I'll only drink with my friends, or I'll only drink on weekends. And I tried all those things, and none of them worked. And so when I finally went to rehab, it was a program where it was all like, well, you don't have to go to AA. You can do this or do that. And I tried everything. And for me, AA was the only thing that helped because it was like you're talking about with your sober buddies. It was other people holding me accountable. And they weren't even like in a negative way. It was just like, I don't want to let these people down. Yeah. So I'm going to keep going. Yeah. And it granted me like this. Now I have 4 years sober, which is amazing. Because if you were to ask like my ex-fiance, who's like, she literally gave me an ultimatum like a million times. Like, if you keep doing this, I'm going to leave. And eventually she left. So I couldn't get sober for that. So like you fast forward, you know, 6 years, you're like, this guy's living in New York, like completely sober.
That's what my friends from college are like. Oh my God, because I moved here 2 years ago and I hadn't seen one of my buddies, and she was up in Harlem and I went to go see. She was like, you look totally different. Yeah. Because I lost like 20 pounds and my friends were like, we can't believe that you even had looked like that or anything. Now, like, it's crazy how much it's just so different. Because I remember it being like, oh, I'm just going to drink forever. Some people just drink more because my friends were like, there's no reason for you, let alone a grown guy, to be drinking 15 to 20 drinks a day. That's a lot. Like, they were like, that's crazy.
Especially for you, because you're...
For me. And I was like, oh, some people just drink a lot. Yeah. Like, but it was an insane amount of alcohol all the time. My body was just, like, falling apart.
Well, that's what happened to me. I would go through a handle of... I know we're not trying to, like, one-up, but the same thing. Handle of vodka would last me 36 hours.
That was, it's just gone.
A half a gallon would last me 36 hours.
It was terrible. And it's crazy.
People are like, how do you function? And it's like, well, you just keep going. And then towards the like late stages of my alcoholism, the only way I would stop drinking was if I ended up in jail or the hospital. Right. Because I would wake up in the morning and I would always lay out like 3 or 4 shot glasses and fill them, and I'd pass out, and then I'd wake up and like 2 of them would still be full. So I just warm vodka.
That's what I would do. I wake up in the middle of the night because I would get the shakes, so I would drink to get it back down. And I was just like, dude, this is crazy. But at the time I didn't think it was crazy. I was like, oh, this is just my life. And people are like, it's insane because I like piss the bed a lot too. All that I would throw up and then keep drinking, and people are like, dude, what are you doing? And I wrote a joke about how I was blacking out every night. There's probably 2 years I really don't remember from college. And my other friends that would drink, they're like, you shouldn't be blacking out every night. I was like, oh, that's when I'm done drinking. That's how I was like, that's what you have to, that's the point when it's over. That's when the drinks are done.
That's insane. Because I used to do the same thing. It was like, you just drink until you physically can't function, and then you fall asleep.
And then that's it. And then it's over.
Yeah.
And it's...
How do you go to bed?
I was like, it's funny, too, because I still get irritated, and I have to, like, catch myself when someone has just 1 to 2 drinks. Because I'm like, what are you, crazy? Yeah. That's wild to me that they can do that.
Because I still work in the service industry while I'm doing stand-up, and it's insane. People order, like, vodka tonics, drink, like, half of it, and then be like, oh, I'm done with this. I'm going to have, like, wine with dinner. Drink half that glass, and be like, oh, this was delicious. And I'm like, the fuck's wrong with you?
Do you serve people drinks?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I could do that. That seems rough to be, like, right there.
When I first got sober, I was a bartender when I first moved to New
that's
York.
Great. I don't know if I could do that.
Pouring it right on. Well, and that's, and I'm not, I would never push anything on anybody, but that is one of the benefits with working the entire program of AA is they give you all these like little tools and stuff that you can use. So the only time I've ever felt the desire to drink now is what you're talking about when I'm like, especially around the holidays, because we're working like crazy. I'm still trying to do stand-up stuff, and then I've got the podcast stuff. And after like a week or two of just cramming all, for 2 weeks straight, I'm like, I'm going to fucking kill somebody. Like, I need
when
to
you
drink.
Get stressed.
Yeah. And then I always call my sponsor, and he always says the same thing. It's awesome because he's always just like, well, do you have money for food? He's like, yeah, I have too much money. Like, I've been working so much. And he goes, well, you still doing the podcast? Yeah, that's great. Do you have rent? Yeah. He's like, then what the fuck are you calling me for? Right. And I'm like, oh, well, when you put it like that.
That's funny though, like, because I will get I'll be overworking myself so much. And I remembered I was in LA with my friend and I was just super depressed, but we were working so much there. We were doing like 5 spots a day. Damn. And I was working out every day and writing. We were writing like crazy. And then I just remembered like crying so much.
And how long had you been sober at this time?
It was still, that was kind of recent, a few
Okay.
months ago. One of my friends in Austin, unfortunately, he relapsed. But I remembered him telling me he had been a big part of AA. And he said, like, between years 5 and 7, sometimes people relapse because something small happens or they think they can handle it.
I've
and
met
that
a
was
couple
sort of,
people like
oh,
that.
really?
Yeah, like out at bars. Like when I first got sober, there was nothing to do. So we'd go like play pool.
Yeah.
And those are at bars. And we all thought like, oh, we're good. Like we
Yeah.
got 6 months of sobriety. We're fine. But we'd go out to bars and we'd like start talking with other people. And I met at least a dozen people who all said like, yeah, I did the program for 5 years, 8 years, 6 years. And every single one of them fell off.
That's why I was like careful because I was thinking about drinking, which is crazy. This was just a few months ago. And then I was like, no, wait, because it's funny how your addict brain just sort of sneaks up on you too. Because I was like, well, I probably could handle it because like sometimes I do shrooms and I don't overdo that. It'll be like once every, which is totally different though from alcohol, you know? And so it's like I was starting to convince myself. And my buddy I was with was like, don't. That's and he's non-addict, but he was like, I've heard your story. He's like, that's crazy. Like he's like, if you don't go to an AA meeting, like I'm going to flip out. And I was like, okay. And I texted one of our friends who's sober, and then he was the one that got me the big book. But now I'm like back in my right mind. But it's just crazy how we're just addicts.
Nowhere. Yeah. And it happens not all the time now that I've gotten some years behind me, but it still happens.
It does. Yeah.
I'll be literally, they're our stories.
Yeah.
Like to the point where some of them are so bad, we try to make jokes out of them. And I don't know if you're like me, but I'm like, this is hilarious.
I joke too. And people are like,
and they are like, they freak out. They're
the blackout joke doesn't hit. It only hit. I went to a Narcotics Anonymous show. They loved it. They love it. But real people, and I have a joke now about withdrawing and how I was hallucinating and stuff. I was hearing things, and I joke how I'm like justifying that to myself. So one of my friends was like trying to intervene. I'm like, you're just jealous you had to take drugs to trip. Like I'm tripping. But I've been trying to work this joke the past week and people are like, that's so sad. I'm like, well, I'm good now. I think it's funny.
There's so much stuff that I have that I think is hilarious.
Yeah.
And then people are just like, and I'm like, I'm going to have to go the Kyle Kinane route and like play rock venues and stuff. Like, I'm not going to be able to do clubs. Like this. No,
I'm keeping this material too because I think it's hilarious.
I'd rather play different venues than write other No,
you got to speak your voice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah, the NAAA circuit.
Oh, dude, they love us.
I used to do fundraiser shows all the time. Yeah. And my darkest joke, suicide, overdoses. Like one of my very close friends in rehab, like, unfortunately overdosed and died.
Yeah.
And I have a whole bit about it and never plays anywhere, ever.
Right.
But when I do those rooms, it's like murders. And I'm like, this is the right
as
thing.
it should, because I'm like, I write about that. That helps me deal with it.
Yeah.
And remember, like, oh, you were really fucked up and now you're good. So
yeah,
I love those bits.
Normal people sometimes are just, and the other fun things, because I go to the Stand a lot to hang out.
Yeah.
And a fun thing there is you'll see like veteran comics, like professionals.
Yeah.
And they're working out new material, and some of it's a little darker. And I'll, like me, by myself
dying
in the back, just dying.
Yeah. I love the dark stuff.
Yeah.
It's so good. Yeah.
Like, I think it was Michael Costa had this bit the other day where he's like, it's so cold. And I was like, really? He's going to talk about the weather? And he goes, it's so cold. I saw a bus coming. And I thought, I'm just going to jump in front of this bus. And I died. Great. And everyone else was like, well, this is not good. I was like, come on.
You're like, no, that's hilarious.
You want to commit suicide?
Yeah,
that's great. So you're in Austin. You're still drinking. 22nd birthday. Brawl out with some dude.
Yeah, with some guy. That's crazy.
Should have seen his face.
Yeah.
It's astounding to me because we've mentioned it a couple times, but you are small in stature.
Yeah.
So but you're aggressive, which is one of the things that I loved about what we were talking about when we met. Because I'm the same way.
Yeah.
And it obviously comes off a little different because I'm 6'1", 230 pounds. So when I get aggressive, people are like, this is an active shooter. But when you get aggressive, you said that sometimes it can go the other way where people are like, "Aw, look at her."
I think it works on stage because it's funny. Like a lot of my friends are like, "You're very funny because you're like this petite, like cute Hispanic girl," and so they kind of expect one thing. But then even my voice itself is like different than what people expect. So I think that helps me with my comedy. But for the longest time, too, I never really thought I was small. I was just like, whatever. And then I like in college, people like, oh, you're like a small person, or in comedy, people mention a lot. Just because you're set, it's like, this is what works for you or this is what doesn't work for you. But I've never really felt, I think it's because my family's like all such hardworking, tough people. And my dad, like I said, Argentinian immigrant, he was pretty like machismo. But he never, I mean, they always, I don't know, my family's pretty fiery in general, all of them. And they're New Yorkers and stuff. But
passionate. They say passionate.
Very passionate.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of people say about me. They're like passionate and scary. But I remember getting pissed when I was a kid because sometimes my dad would be like, oh, your brothers can stay out later because they're guys, but you're a girl, so it's different. And I was like, that's stupid. And I would run away from home. They like get so pissed. I would go like sit in the park. They had no idea what I was doing. I was dumb, but I'd be gone for hours because I was like, oh, you're not going to let me hang out. And then they would try and find me. And like, it was so dumb. But I remember I just hated that. I think sometimes, too, that's why I love comedy so much because I'm like, oh, I'm out late. Like, it feels like I'm not doing anything bad because I'm just doing stand-up. But it's like, I get to be out late and it's
cool
awesome.
Thing.
Yeah.
Plus, you had mentioned that sometimes you snap on audiences.
Yeah.
And that was something that I could really resonate with because sometimes I'm just like, I want to be like, the fuck are you doing? Like, what's like to the audience sometimes it's like, you're talking, you're like falling over drunk. Like, what the fuck is happening?
I think I get away with it a lot because I'm small. Because I've seen guys like they want to fight, but then I'm like, yo, shut the fuck up. And then other people start laughing. Yeah. And I think once you get them laughing, then you get them back.
Yeah, but when I do it, it's just kind of like,
you're like, oh my God, like, school shooter.
Yeah. Everybody hide, get under the tables.
So it works, but it's it was funny too though because one of my friends, he's small comic, he's like I feel like though sometimes you get mad, people just take you so serious. He's like, you're very well respected. So I don't know, my temper can be so bad where people are like, oh my God, leave her alone.
Yeah. So
I try not to, like, I remember one time at Greenwich I just went way too hard too fast and I just lost him completely.
Yeah. So you can lose the room.
I
can
lose. Yeah, because there are these two like bros sitting up front and they were talking through everybody's set and I was watching this and I was about to go up and I was already pissed and I go up, I don't even get a joke out. I'm like, yo, shut the fuck up. I was like, what is wrong with you guys?
So
like, why are you even here?
No, nothing.
And I go up, I'm like, yo, you should be ashamed of yourselves. Like, why the fuck are you here? You might as well leave. And then I was like saying that and I was like, oh, this isn't my show. I don't want to like make these people leave. And I was like, you know what, just stay. And then they're like confused and then I was like, so what are you talking about anyways? And they're like scared to talk. They're like, nothing. And then the crowd now hates me and I'm like, you know what, sorry, it's just been a long day. And I was like the first like 3 minutes is just a
how
mess.
Did it go? Did you
terrible.
Get it back?
No. And then I started doing jokes and I was like, this is the longest 8 minutes of my life. It was so bad. And after I heard some audience members say, as I was getting off stage, like, that was rough. And I was like, you're right. I take it. That was my fault. My fault completely. But I was like, you can't get too mad too fast.
There's one of my managers at work. She's real funny, but this is my temper, where she goes, I'm gonna keep seating you until you break a glass, and that's when I know you've been sat too much. Because I get because I hate giving bad service because I'm competitive, so I don't like when I have guests that come in and they're spending the kind of money they're spending, but I can't just physically, I can't get to them.
Right.
I start to get frustrated, and my main outlet is anger.
Yeah,
so,
me too.
Like, I've been at work before, and like they're like, "Hey, you're sad again," and I've literally picked up a glass and like smashed it on the table, and it shatters, and I'm like, "You gotta be fucking kidding me!"
Yeah.
So now my boss literally is just like, it's a running joke, like, "Well, Brennan's not weeded until he starts breaking stuff," and I'm like, "That's not."
That's the thing is, I'll go outside and break trash and shit.
Yeah.
Like I just went to town on stuff. One of my friends who's sober, he's like, "You gotta keep that in check," and I don't want to get mad. One time I flipped out at a comic in a club, and it was totally justified.
Like while you were on stage or during a set, or?
It was after she did a set and was like, I think you took my joke. Brand new comic. And it was funny because my friends were like, she doesn't even have the joke structure for that joke. And she did apologize and everything, but I flipped out.
But wait, let's get back.
I flipped the hell out.
So you get off stage and this brand new comic comes up and says, hey, like literally, no, hi, how you doing? Nothing. Just, hey, I think you stole my joke. She was like, oh, that joke was mine. And I was like, also, you should have told a joke first to get him to like you. You know what I mean? I was like, everything about it. So it was weird. It was a weird first set. And I'm like, yo, I've been doing comedy for years. Like, it pissed me off. And right as she
I snapped because when she was on stage, I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" I was like, "That's my joke. I wrote it like months ago," and I pulled up the tweet right away as she was like saying it because I was like, "Oh, it's on here." And so she comes to sit down, and she could see me fuming, and all my friends know. They're like, "Oh fuck!" Like, and my buddy's like, "Just stay down."
But your friends,
yeah, my friends know, and he was like, "Don't do anything," and I flipped a chair.
Don't do what we all. What?
I flipped a chair over and I go right next to her and she pretends to be on the phone. I was like, "You're not on the phone." And like someone else is up and the host is like looking at me like chilled. I'm like, "Bro," I was like, "You're not on the phone." I was like, "Talk to me." I was like, "That's my fucking joke. Don't come in here acting like you wrote." I'm like, "You're brand fucking new." I'm like flipping out and there's a circle around us.
I love it.
At this point, and I was gonna hit her and she just kept being like, "Sorry. I didn't mean to. I didn't know." And she's backed up. But I was like, I realized right then, I was like, if I hit her, I might have gotten banned or something. I was like, I can't.
Arrested.
I have to. Because this was like last year. And I was like, it was like a year and so many months into comedy. And people like knew me. And I felt like I fit in the scene. But I was like, I don't want to be
that person. Yeah. Because it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's even now not drinking and we still have tendencies, and I can only speak for myself, but there's still tendencies to do things where it's like
impulsive.
Fuck. Yeah, exactly. There's not so many times, but there are a few times, like it's a running joke at work now, but it's like, that's now a running joke because I reacted that way.
Yeah.
And that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
And I still act out, not all the time, but I still act out quite a bit. And it's like not something I'm proud of.
No, I always feel bad. And I've snapped at comment, and I'm pretty paranoid too, where I'm like, I think when I moved here, I was like, because in Austin, when I first started, I was kind of shy, and guys were like super creepy to me. And then I started to get really like, I was like, fuck this, and I would flip out. And so when I moved
here,
your
dad was right. There's a difference.
There was unfortunately kind of, yeah, but I was like, I don't want that to affect what I'm doing. So when I moved here, I was like, I'm not taking shit from anybody. I don't care who it is. I was like, be it Jerry Seinfeld. I was like, I'm not fucking doing that. So I snapped it. So many of my friends were like, you were such a cunt when you came here. And I was like, I was just trying to defend like my energy. And then they were like, over time, they're like, oh, she's cool.
Yeah.
But one of my friends the other day, my best pals, he was like, we were doing these mics in the park because it was during the pandemic and there was not, and he was like, you were so explosive, there was only one seat next to you, and he was just standing there like, do I sit down? He's like, or do I just stand? And he's like, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna sit. He's like, and you didn't do anything? He was like, all right, it's okay. But he was like, for like a few minutes, I was like, I don't even know if I want to sit down because she gets so mad.
That fiery.
Yeah.
Well, so let's take it back to Austin. So you get there, you're still drinking. Yeah. You have the 22nd birthday, and then you're like, you could stop drinking, and then you decide I need to do something. I need to make a change, and so you get into improv. Did you like just Facebook look up some improv groups, or how did that go? Did you just find it?
I remember being like improv or stand up. Yeah, so I searched up improv theaters in Austin. Okay, and then the Hideout Theater popped up.
Okay, yeah, I know that. Yeah. This is for everyone listening. This was before Rogan and Segura and all them moved down
a long time ago.
Yeah, so there was still a huge, like they make it seem like they're starting the comedy scene there, but
no, it was the best scene in Texas.
Yeah, there's a huge scene. Well, it was one of the best scenes. I'd probably rank it like third or fourth, just behind New York and LA, and then there's Seattle and then Austin. And now everyone's talking like, oh, Austin's up and coming. It's like, Austin's been there, man.
No, it was definitely third.
Yeah.
Even before.
Oh, yeah, like, exactly.
Yeah.
So you get there, and now you're doing improv, and then you decide to switch into stand-up. When you finally start doing stand-up, what was your, I don't want to say influences, but like kind of everyone, our first few years, we always imitate like some of our favorites. So like I tell stories, a lot of my influences are Burr and Segura, and then Lenny Bruce from way back in the day. But did you catch yourself like, oh, I'm doing an imitation of someone I really admire, or were you just straight out of the gate like, this is me?
I wasn't doing an imitation, but I was trying to do one-liners because I was like, Mitch Hedberg felt like the guy, and then even Seinfeld. Like I wasn't, because now my set's really honest, and people are like, oh, we learned so much about you from your set. Mm-hmm. And but at first, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was like, just try to write a joke, and it was bad. It was just like really dumb things, and like
I always find that when on this show, and even in my personal life, when I talk to comedians who do more stories or more truthful, like me, you, a few other people that I've talked to about this, it's interesting because a lot, like Marcus Crespo has been on the show. He's like my best friend. I feature for him all the time. He's a headliner in Florida, but same thing, one-liners. Because when you first start doing stand-up, everyone's like, "Oh, you write jokes." Like I'm a joke maker,
is
Jerry.
Like, that's what I have to do. It's like a setup, punchline, setup. It was so bad.
Mine too.
I remember one of them was like, I was like, "Oh, I want to come up with a new energy drink called Mountain Dew or something," or like, and then there was like Mountain Don't. I was like trying to don't do it, just do it. It was like, I was like, what are you? I looked back at my old notebook. I was like, this is trash.
God,
it was so bad.
Yeah, I went through a phase where I was trying to be, when I first started, I was trying to be like bro-y bro guy.
Yeah.
So I look back on those old notebooks and I'm like, this is horrific.
It's
like
so
not even from like,
bad.
PC culture, whatever. No, like it's just, there's no structure.
Yeah.
There's no tags. It's not funny. It's just shock value, which is something because I'm super
I used to do that too.
And I'm so pretentious when it comes to comedy. I hate that kind of stuff now.
Yeah.
And I look back and I go, oh, I hate it because I was it. Like I did it. And then you realize, oh, just like my whole thing is sometimes to the detriment of the laugh, I'll be too honest. Mm-hmm. And my girlfriend will say like, or Marcus or somebody will reach out and say, hey, why don't you say this instead of that? And I go, well, because that's not how it happened.
That's what I would do. And now I'm more okay with stretching things a little bit and adding tags.
Yeah.
But it's still very honest because I like it grounded. Like I was talking to my friend about Chappelle and I was like, he's just such a good like storyteller too. Because sometimes he can do a long joke and it's like, he's just so compelling. I'm like, I like that. I like that. He just has that focus and like that stage presence too. Because I was like, I want some of that. Or
because you listen, you lean in, everyone listens.
Mike Birbiglia too. I like. He's more maybe one man showy, but I was like, I love his stories, and then he has the punches along the way. I'm like, I kind of want something like that. Yeah, in my set.
What I've learned I started in 2009, took some years off obviously for jail and drugs and drinking, but what I've learned in all this time was that, and this happened to me, I did a show, an audition here, and then the booker called me for feedback and he's like, oh, you're more of a storyteller, and I was like, thank you, I really appreciate that you could see that in my act.
For sure.
He goes, that's not a compliment.
Oh my God.
Like, huh? He goes, in New York, you got to be bang, bang,
I don't
bang.
know if that's necessarily true.
Well, it's interesting because I was like, okay, one man's opinion, took the advice. And it was actually, he did give me some very beneficial advice about certain things. And I was like, all right, awesome. And then I was talking to a friend of mine who's been on the show, Matt Fulstron, who opens for Segura. And he goes, I go, yeah, man, he told me I'm too much of a storyteller. He goes, dude, I just played at an arena. You know who else is a storyteller?
Tom.
Segura.
Yeah, Segura.
like, relax. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking like, oh, I'm much more in that wheelhouse. Like, I know what other people are going to say, and it's New York and punch and stuff. But it's like, this is my voice. This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Same thing with what you're talking about. I want to tell a story and then just try to add as many tags in there as I can. That's what I do. Yeah. Because to me, that's way more fun because then the audience is learning about you. And my whole goal is to make the audience laugh at really dark stuff.
Me too.
Because when I was really down and out, like obviously it's cold out, but like if I wear a t-shirt and you ever see me in a t-shirt, you'll see I got scars all over my body. Yeah. And it's one of those things like when I was really down and out and super depressed, my cousin introduced me to stand up when I was like 12 or 13. And I remember that was always something I could go back and watch. I remember the Mitch Hedberg Comedy Central Presents. Yeah. Like that was something I'd go back, Dufresne, Party of Two, Dufresne. Like,
it cheers you up.
Yeah, exactly.
That's one of the only things that would cheer me up, too, because I would be laughing.
Yeah.
Then. And that was the only thing that would make me laugh, or I would be, like, looking forward to.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that now I'm grown and I'm doing stand-up and I've been doing it for a while. And that's something that I want to do for other people, where it's like some of my jokes on the surface, they're funny. Like, because it's, we've done this long enough to where you're like, oh, I know what people... For the most part, I kind of know what could get. Yeah. And then, but underneath, there's layers to it. So, like, I've got a joke about my mom where on the surface it's funny, but then there are other people who grew up with a mom like that who are going to be like, that really hits. Like, we get it
for sure.
So, and that's the whole point, is to try to level it, because back to the one line thing, that was so hard for me.
God, it was so bad too.
Some people on like Mark on Twitter, like he crushes. Norman.
Yeah, but that's like. So him, I just it's not really interesting to me. Like, I respect him, what he does, and I think he's an amazing joke writer, but I'm like, I'd rather listen to people tell stories, because I'm like, oh, that's so, I loved, what was that show why I'm like totally blanking. It was like in a strip club.
This is not happening.
Yeah, this is. I love that. I love listening to the stories.
That was one of the when I was first coming up. I mean, when I first brought I've talked about it before, but the podcast idea started like a decade ago with a buddy of mine in college because we'd get drunk and be like, "Oh, we should start a podcast."
Yeah.
We'll just be drinking buddies, and that's how it started. But when I actually started doing the podcast over a year ago, This Is Not Happening, The Crab Feast, Honeydew with Ryan Sickler now, like those were all inspirations because I loved listening to other people's stories. There are a few comics that I got into because of their stories, and then I saw their stand-up, and I was kind of like, I mean, this is good. Obviously, they're professionals.
For sure.
I can appreciate and respect the structure, but it's like, I kind of like the stories that they told better.
Yeah.
Like, so it's interesting how there's just so many different lanes you can go through.
There's so many. It was interesting how you were just saying how you want to get the audience. I remember a comic years ago showed me like this graph, but it looks like a pendulum of how it's like, this is what the audience likes, where it's probably more light.
Yeah.
And then for you and me, because we're dark, it's like, we love this stuff over here. Because like one of my favorite bits I have, it's like about a miscarriage, but I have to put that at the end. I can't open with that because they'll be like, so it's like you kind of slowly start light and then they like you more, and then as it keeps
once
swinging,
you get them on your side,
then you can get real dark.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to.
Do you ever torpedo a set on purpose?
I love dark, so I tried. Like my closer is probably one of my darkest jokes. But I remember trying to open with that a lot, and people were just like not having it.
Yeah. Well, the reason because I've done shows before where I'll do material, as you were saying, that's a perfect analogy, the pendulum, where I'll do something light and then just a little dark, and then I'll go back to light, and then I'll go I've got jokes that I think are super, like I would tell kids at a birthday party.
Sure.
And I've said those before and I've gotten groans like, oh, and immediately like the fucking, I don't know if it's the dickhead in me or the competitive nature or what it is, but I'll be like, you thought that was dark? You thought that, okay.
That's good that you say that.
Yeah.
I think.
But then I've done this probably a handful of times. I'll immediately torpedo the whole set. I'll start talking about friends that have died, people who have killed themselves, because I have bits about all that stuff.
It's a different life, though. Some people don't. That's what I realized is I'm like, some people have not been, because people are like, you've been through so much, and I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like I've just been living my life.
Yeah, I had a guy, 25 years old, was out to dinner at the restaurant celebrating. They just bought a house. So he was engaged. Him and his fiance had just bought a house, and they're having a celebratory dinner. And I remember thinking, when I was 25, I was in jail. Like, live your life, dude. Like, what are you even
When I hear
doing?
about people I remember in college or after college, like getting married, I was like, yo, I was Schwasted somewhere. I was like, dude, I don't even know. But that's crazy to me too, because I'm like, I change so much every year. I used to feel bad where I was like, oh, I'm not married yet and stuff, but I'm like, I couldn't do comedy if I wasn't doing what I'm doing.
I do not believe the whole adage, everything happens for a reason, but I think everything happens. And how you deal with that is obviously how you learn and grow.
Right.
So there are certain things where it's like, I talk about it on stage. I even talk about it on stage. But like I talk about my ex-fiance, and like that was my person. I had found my person. She just didn't find her person. So, we move on. But it's one of those things where people are like, oh, if you never drank, that would have never happened. It's like, but
you can't think of it like that.
If I never drank, I never would have met her, because I ended up in Jacksonville to go to rehab.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a whole spider web of weird coincidences.
It is, and I don't know what I believe exactly. Sometimes I think I do believe everything happens for a reason, because then as time goes on, I think it's because I handle things well, where it's like I just pick myself up and I'm like, all right, you have to keep going. And I think I look back, I'm like, since I've gotten sober, my life has only gotten better.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm like, things are happening, and it's like I still get bummed out about stuff here and there, but you just keep picking up and going and going.
That is one thing. It's interesting. Like when we had the move to New York, I kept thinking in my head, because I'm an anxious person, and I was like, God, like, I'm going to have to drive this U-Haul 1,000 miles. And it was a big U-Haul. And then I was like, I'm going to have to drive this U-Haul through the city of New York, 27-foot U-Haul through the city. And I've never driven in a city, like a big city.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm going to have to drop this U-Haul. Anyway, it was all this like cascading like anxiety about like all this stuff. And then a month into living here, it's like, oh, I did all that.
You get stronger.
Yeah.
Especially New York. Like,
it's like,
tough.
oh, I just did it.
Yeah.
You just do it. You close your eyes, you grit your teeth, you bear it, you do it, and then it's over.
That's like stand-up too, because so many people are like, I can't believe you do that.
Yeah.
But you just keep
You just do
doing
it.
it.
Yeah.
And now I don't feel nervous. I get excited about going up.
Oh, so
I'm never,
excited.
yeah.
I only get nervous if it's
Like an audition or something
yeah,
like that. Yeah.
then I'm like, fuck. But it's actually good because the nervous energy, because I'm high level, which is funny. If you see me at an open mic, you're like, this guy has no stage presence. But that's only because I'm like,
It's a mic and there's
yeah, I'm
nothing
working shit
happening.
out.
Yeah.
But when I get on stage, like when I'm ready to go, like at that Hell Yeah show, I fucking was like, let's go. I want to get to some more of these stories because these are
crazy.
super crazy. Yeah. Let's go abroad.
Oh,
so
boy.
I've got a couple of broad ones here.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your trip in Ecuador
That was wild.
where you did something super illegal.
Oh, yeah. I was smoking weed like a dumbass. They
Yeah.
kept telling us, they're like, don't do that.
So what happened? You were outside of a church, so you're blacked out in Ecuador.
Blacked out, Ecuador, outside of church, trying to roll a joint, apparently, which I don't know how to do. And I still can't do it. And my buddy's with me. And
How did you end up in Ecuador? Just
I studied abroad. I was like a Latin American studies major.
so this
I
is
studied
while you
abroad
were in
twice.
school?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I was there and blacked out. That night was just crazy. That before that happened too, that same night, and I kind of remember I was browning out at this point. We were at a restaurant. I like knocked over so many plates and stuff.
Oh,
And I was fucked up drunk, and I was like, "This is embarrassing." Like I was like, "This is bad," and I just left. And I think that was when I went with my friend. And it's crazy too how like alcohol just makes you so different because I feel so responsible now. And if my friends are doing dumb shit, I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like such a mom.
I'm so like my girlfriend, because she still drinks. So sometimes she tells me like, sometimes I feel like I just can't get like loose around you. Like I can't get giggly with my friends because you're like a dad.
Yeah.
Because like we were walking back from the stand the other night. We went and saw a show Sunday. Their last night here, I took them out to the stand. We went and saw a show. And then on the way back, like they're like giggling and like being loud on the subway and stuff.
And you're like, you have to be quiet because
like,
there's crazy people.
Yeah, like you're drawing attention to us.
Yes, that's how I feel.
And if Wedding Crashers taught us anything, it's draw attention to yourself, but on your own terms. Like they're like,
I agree. I'm the
yelling,
same
and
way.
I'm like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. I'm super paranoid. And like if my friends do something dumb, like my buddy is drinking a lot now. If he like he's like, oh, I fell asleep on the train. I'm like, what is wrong with you? But I was in South America. They said in Peru I would jump from like rooftop to rooftop.
Yeah,
I was
we're
like,
gonna get to Peru.
broken my neck. But anyways,
Or get into
Ecuador. Apparently, we find some weed. I'm trying to roll it. Cops pull up like, hey, what are you doing? And they want Americans because if they can make a lot of money off you in jail.
Yeah.
So my stubborn ass is like, because I'm stubborn too and aggressive.
Yeah.
That my friend's like, no, let's go. And I'm like, no, I gotta roll this joint. He said, I like
And the
dropped
cops
the
are
weed.
there?
The cops are there, and I was like, nah, fuck them. Like, fuck them. I don't give a shit. Outside of, and the Catholicism is huge there. Like that's so disrespectful. And I feel bad that I did that too.
But it's pretty hilarious.
It's pretty hilarious. But I'm like, I can't believe that's just like disrespectful. I'm being shitty to cops again. Like was my thing.
Locked
being
up
shitty
abroad, man.
Yeah. My buddy just grabs me and goes because he's like, no, I'm not dealing with this. Like, it's
So you got out?
So we got out,
Okay.
but it was because he was there and I was just being an idiot.
So you
And,
mentioned the cop thing. Do you have a problem with authority?
I guess I do.
Still to
Or I
this
don't
day?
think. I mean, I don't like. I'm not like crazy where
Combative,
people
yeah.
are. Like, I think it's dumb when people are like, we got to get rid of cops. I'm like, what are we going to do if something terrible happens? That's
See,
crazy.
that's the thing is I don't have, on a grand scale, I don't have a problem. It's when it's me personally.
Me too.
That's
Yeah,
when
me
I have
too.
a fucking problem.
Because I'm like, so I like even the other day I was like I snuck on the bus and then I got a ticket and I was just being I was like, oh, you think because I'm a small girl like you're because I was like, oh, you know how many fucking drunk people are on there like shooting coke or whatever. It's like you're gonna pick on me. I was like throwing a huge fit. He was like, ma'am.
This was like recently?
This was recently. And then on the ticket it said like
yesterday?
resisting. Like I was like, yo, this was like a few weeks ago because my temper is just so hot.
Yeah.
And I was in the wrong. Like I snuck on the bus, but I was still like trying to get out of it.
Yeah.
But
I get so, and I don't think it helped that I was pre-law. Like I was gonna, like when I was in college, I used to throw that around all the time. Like the cops would bang on the door because we were being too loud or something. Like, fuck you, where's your warrant? You're not coming in my house. I've been arrested so many times for that. You slam the door in the cop's face. They're not going to just be like, oh, he's got a point. He's right. We're out of here.
Especially the aggression, because I was like lucky. I think once again, because I am small and a girl, it didn't get worse.
Yeah, I've been tased a couple times.
That's the thing. Is
I'm
it's like
big and aggressive.
I'm small, so they're like.
But I've had this conversation. Joe Dorville, shadow producer of this show, and I co-host the sports show Cheers from the Press Box with him. He's made a couple of good points. We've talked about this before, and it's like there is a genuine underlying problem because I've been tased a few times. Like I've gotten into like literal arguments. I've gotten the shit kicked out of me by cops, but never once was I afraid that they were going to kill me.
Yeah, that's a huge difference.
It's a huge difference.
Yeah,
which is a point that he made. He's like, you know why? Like. I don't fight with the cops, and I'm like, why? Because they'll fucking kill me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even think about that.
But to that point, still, I'm like, I am more cautious now, and I'm still working on it, where it's like, if there's like a creepy guy at night, I have to be smart, where it's like, don't talk shit to this crazy dude on the train late at night alone, because he could kill you.
Yeah, he could.
So I have to be smarter about, because I used to blow up so much all the time.
Especially when you're drinking. You're just like, fuck
I would be like, nah, fuck it, blah, blah, blah. So now I'm more careful. There are times when people are creepy or whatever, and I'm still like, yo, fuck off. And I have a taser and like mace, and I'm like, I'll fuck you up. And
now it's a party.
So now I'm like, all right, we're gonna even the playing field a little bit.
Hell
but
yeah.
Otherwise, I have to like pick my battles. Where it's like, do you really want to get into it with this homeless guy who has nothing and doesn't care about anything, and you're alone on the train? Like, just switch cars.
That's another thing I have to try to explain to people, and I don't know if it's because of our life experience, but when we get into certain situations, I have to turn, whether it's my girlfriend or friends that I'm with or whatever. It's like, do you not understand? Like some of these people have nothing
And
they
they don't care about anything. Yeah.
They don't care. Like, they'll throw you in front of the train, like, and not even blink twice.
That's what I've told myself, because I've seen people flip out and get punched in the face on the platforms. I'm like, oh, these people don't care at all, and you can't reason with them. So I've had to learn for my own sake too, because it's like I don't like getting angry. It just happens like fire.
I hate it
because it's
so
like
much.
you get it.
Oh,
We're on the same wavelength. And I asked one of my friends, I was like, how do you not get mad? Like, I have such a chill buddy, and he was like, well, sometimes I feel it coming. And I'm like, I don't feel it coming. It just happens.
It blows my mind. Like, my girlfriend will like be talking, and then the next thing you know, I'm screaming, and she goes, I don't understand how this happened. And I was like, I don't fucking know either.
That's what happens to me. And that usually I get more mad. There's a lot of people that don't get it, because they're like, what's the problem? You got to relax. And when someone says that to me, I'm like, oh, you're going to tell me to fucking relax? I'm like, are you crazy?
How about I put you through the wall?
Yeah, I get so pissed. But I try to walk away, because I still get pretty livid over like nothing. It feels like every couple days I'll get pissed. And I just like, take a fucking walk.
Everyone's
just
like,
walk.
It's funny because people are like, oh, you know what you should do? You should like work out. I go to the gym.
I do work out. I run.
Yeah, I power lift. So it's like heavy, like gotta like for
sure. Yeah,
and I do that to try and get as much aggression out as
Me
possible. Too. So I lift. I smoke cigarette. Like, I do all these.
People
things
think it's crazy. They're like, you're running out in the cold and doing push-ups and stuff. I'm like, I have to, or I would murder you.
Yeah, exactly.
Or try to.
I take all these pains to like try to get all the aggression out I can, and it's still there. It still sits in there. So it's like.
But I think it's a good thing now that I've gotten older, and I think over the years I'm still aggressive, but I mellow out more. But I'm like, I think that's what makes our sets so good too. Because then I go crazy on stage.
Yeah, me too.
Because I'm not hurting anyone. I'm like, I'm just yelling into a microphone. Who cares? But it feels so good.
And it's so much fun.
It's
when
so
everyone
fun.
gets hyped up with you.
Yeah, you're hype, and you got everyone hype.
Yeah.
One of my buddies was like, I would love to see you at like a protest. I was like, oh, dude, that would be dope.
Murder
like, let's
I'd
go.
Kill it. I wanted to we were talking about Ecuador, and then you mentioned Peru. So the story you had told me was you were staying with a host family.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So what happened the first day you got there?
I got fucked up, browned out. I don't think I blacked out, but they're more conservative too, in South America in general. So I was like, I knew I was fucked up, and I had to throw up so bad. And I didn't want to go to the bathroom because it was the family. Everybody shared it. So I was like, they're going to hear me.
Yeah.
So then I just go to my window. There's like a parking lot right underneath. I just puke all over somebody's car. It was disgusting. I was just throwing up outside the window because I was like, I don't want them to hear me. I'm like hanging out too, out the window. I was like, well, what if I fell out or something?
Did they hear you? They
didn't hear me.
Okay. So the next morning when you get up, everything
was fine.
How long did you stay in Peru?
That was 2 months. It was 2 months Peru, 2 months Ecuador.
So this is the first night.
Yeah.
So they know something. Like, what else happened? You said you were jumping from rooftop to rooftop.
Yeah. Can't believe that. I would just get fucked up and climb shit. It was like, oh, who did I think I was? Like doing parkour and stuff, just jumping. My friends were like, you go crazy. You'd get fucked up. You're like, yo, let's go party. And it was funny because Peru is so beautiful and there are all these, you could jump because the rooftops were, I'm not justifying this at all, but it was like, so you could bounce around. I was like, oh, that looks fun. Which was just so stupid. I could have broken my neck and died.
You could have fallen through. They don't know how stable those roofs are.
That's the thing, too. Yeah. So I was like bouncing around and...
was this... Because you were there for 2 months. So was this like a daily occurrence? Like, would you get like...
I think it happened just a couple times. Okay. I wouldn't do it a lot because then my friends like grabbed me and were like, this is... No.
Yeah.
And...
No.
It was funny because there was this like set of... It was... I don't know, a street of all these bars and stuff. And I would go to school. And then during the day, people at the bar would give you tickets or something. Be like, oh, come tonight. And all these guys knew me. They'd be like, yo, what's up, Espi? And everyone's like, who is that? I'm like, I don't know. I remember. But they all loved me. They were like, and I would get free drink tickets and stuff. My friends were like, you need that? But I was there all the time. And there was one bar, what was it called? It was like Mama Africa's or something. And they would paint your face for free, just like animal stuff. It was crazy. And I remember my friend, I had a roommate. She was with me. She was like, oh, where'd you go last night? I'm like, I have no idea. And she was like, I'm joking. I know where you went. You were at Mama Africa's at some point because I woke up, I just had all this shit on my face. Like I would come home, just stuff all over. I was like, oh my God.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
God, Peru.
One time I woke up too. I had hundreds. This was crazy. I get out of bed. There's hundreds of cigarettes just in bed with me. And I was like, what happened? It's cigarette cartons. And then I had all these lighters. It was just like naked women on the lighters. I was like, where did I get all this shit? It was crazy.
Ever find out?
No. I had no idea. And I was like, that's so not like me to have like, well, I smoked a lot.
Yeah.
I would smoke a lot. But I was like, what happened?
Maybe all the boys brought you some cigarettes.
And I was like, where did this come from?
I wanted to... Cigarettes. That's hilarious. I wanted to get to this one story.
Yeah.
We're coming up on the hour, but I do want to get to this one story where you got so drunk and high one time you thought you died.
Oh, yeah. That was probably the last
this?
time. It had to be... I think I was younger when that happened. Like 19.
Okay.
I think because it was in New York. It was in upstate New York. I was at my friend's house and she had a party. Her parents were gone. And but I think we had been in college already.
College?
I think it was college, but I came home during the summer. Okay. And so I was there and I just got like fucked up. And then I got really high and I can't handle a lot of weed.
Like if at all.
I maybe 2 milligrams. In LA, I was drinking these things that had like barely any weed. I liked like one of those over like 2 hours. I was like, that's fine. But weed, I can't handle. So I got super fucked up.
Did you get super paranoid on weed?
Super paranoid. I have like out of body experiences. I hate it. It's not fun. And that's what happened was it kind of was just like blackout in like a new level of like I just remember feeling
even further down.
Yeah, just like disconnected. And then I remember when I was coming to, I kind of felt like I was like my soul's like coming back to my body for some reason. And then I was like going through, it was crazy. It felt like childhood memories were flashing back because then I felt like I was coming back. And then when I kind of came back, I was still drunk and high. But then I like leaned over the bed. They had put me in their parents' room. But they wasn't there. I was like, oh God. And I just puked all over the floor.
You just threw up all over?
Yeah. And I kept throwing up. But I was like, oh, I'm back. But it fucked me up for a while. Like I stopped smoking weed and I was super paranoid. And I was like, what is existence? And so I was like, no, I can't smoke weed again. Because this was. And then years later during the pandemic, I got depressed and I smoked a little bit of weed, but it was never, I'm never smoking that much again. Or I don't drink anymore too. So that was because I was probably like cross-faded as hell. Yeah. But I thought, I was like, oh, it's like over.
It was just, you just thought it was over?
Yeah. God. But I was like stuck in like a different dimension or something. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's what it felt like. Exactly so I was just like, that's it. But I remembered when I kind of started to come back, I felt like I felt like I was having a heart attack. I was just like in this black space.
Holy shit.
And it was awful.
Damn. Well,
It was terrible.
Thanks for. Well, I was probably should have switched that with the Peru story.
The Peru story's more fun.
Yeah. But almost dying. But you're here now.
But I'm here.
Plug everything one more time. Tell everyone where they can find you,
Monday,
social media.
Monday night comedy every Monday, 10 o'clock at the
Comedy
Comedy Shop. And Grizzly Pear, I'm there like every night. And then all my handles at Espi Rivadeneira. Rivadeneira.
She's passionate.
See?
Throw those Spanish on there. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. Of course, Brendan T. Comedy on all social media. BrendanTComedy.com for all the upcoming dates. Check out the merch store. And we will talk to you all next week.
Bye. Thanks.